story time about one of the most embarrassing things that has ever happened to me in high school. So a little background information. I was in my freshman year of high school. Well, spring break was coming up. Well, the whole year, my friend and I hadn't been to one single party. So we decided that we wanted to try and go to a party every single day of spring break, which was about to be super difficult because we had to worry about my strict-ass parents and my neighbors. A little background info on my neighbor. My neighbor is this girl who's in my same grade, and she literally hates my guts. I don't know why, but literally anything that I do, she'll go and she'll tell her mom, and then her mom will tell my mom, because my mom and her mom are best friends. But before we know it, Saturday comes around, and we go back to school on Monday. We did not make it to one single party. Well, later that night, we found out that one of our friends was throwing one. So around 11 o'clock, everybody's sleeping, and I walk out my back door, hop over my fence, and I start heading towards the road where my friend was going to be parked. You know, who do I see fucking sitting outside on their porch reading a fucking book? My fucking neighbor. Like for part 2. Part 2 about the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me in high school. So like I said, the bitch that I hate is sitting out on her porch reading a fucking book at 11 o'clock at night. So I crouch down so she couldn't see me. I run to the car, and my friend and I finally go to the party. Well, we get to that party and it's really boring, so we decided to go to a different one. And the party that we were about to go through was being thrown by the kid that I really liked. So I start hanging out with him when we get there. I'm drinking a lot, having so much fun, and I really have to go to the bathroom. And I didn't know where anything was at all, so I grabbed my friend and we're looking around everywhere for the bathroom. Because when I asked him, he was super drunk and really couldn't explain to me where the bathroom was. So we were pretty much left to fend for ourselves. But we ended up not being able to find a bathroom, and this is where I had to improvise. So my friend and I go to the laundry room, and we see the litter box in there for the cat. Well, at this point, I was desperate, so I just went in the litter box. Well, 30 minutes later, the cops show up to the party. And everybody had to hurry up and leave because we did not want to get underages. Like for part 3. Part 3 about the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me in high school. So like I said, I went in the litter box, and then the cops showed up. We all ran because we didn't want to get underages. I was able to sneak back into my house without anybody knowing. But when I get to school on Monday, everybody's talking about the party. And apparently the kid that I liked who threw the party, his parents didn't know that he threw one at all. And this was like during first period. So I went to text him and ask him if he was grounded because we were supposed to hang out the next day. And I realized that I am blocked. So I'm thinking, what the fuck? Why does he have me blocked? So I told my friend that he blocked me, and she goes, it's probably because he saw what you did in the laundry room. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, there's no fucking way that he knows. Because there was a door that led to the outside in the laundry room, there were cameras in there. So everybody saw this video of me. People were posting it on their Finstas, posting it on their Snapchat stories. It was so fucking embarrassing. Not to mention, the bitch that I hate who lives next door showed my parents the fucking video, and I was grounded for fucking 4 months. Story time about why my mom kicked me out when I was 16. So a little background information. This had all started as soon as my dad left my mom and I. I was like 13 around the time. Well, ever since then, my mom would have different guys in and out of the house all the time. Like, we were lucky if a month went by and she was still with the same dude. Which, I mean, I kind of get it because my dad did leave us for a woman that he had started another family with. But at the same time, it was just a whole mess. Anyway, so she had got with this new guy, and we're gonna call him Tyler. And by the way, the dudes that she would date, they would literally live at our house. Anyway, so a week after he moved in, I started getting really close to him, which usually never happens. Usually I would try to keep my distance because I knew how wrong it was of her having all these different guys in the house when I'm only 16. Anyways, every time that my mom would go to work, he would invite me to go see a movie, and he would just be really flirty with me. And he was only 6 years older than me, and my mom was 32. You do the math. Anyways, like for part 2. Part 2 about why my mom kicked me out when I was 16. So like I said, the guy was being super flirty with me, inviting me to the movies when my mom wasn't home and all that stuff. Well, then it led to more than just that. By the way, this guy did not have a job, so he was home with me 24/7. And I was doing online school. So we were in the house by ourselves, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. Anyways, like I said, it led to more, and we started doing the nasty and stuff. Ew, just, yeah. Well, the one day after we got done doing the nasty in my mom's room, we had fell asleep. And yes, we did not have clothes on. Well, at 2 in the morning, I hear someone pounding on the bedroom door, and my mom worked night shifts. So we get up, he hurries up and gets dressed and tells me to hide under the bed, and he opens the door, and it's my mom's sister. My sister literally lived in the apartment next door, and she was like, oh yeah, neither of you were answering the phone, so she wanted me to check on you guys, like, where's Elena? And I'm still under the bed naked, like for part 3. Part 3 about why my mom kicked me out when I was 16. So like I said, I'm laying under the bed, no clothes on. She asks where I am. And he's like, oh, she should be in her room. So he goes looking for me everywhere. with her. And he's like, oh, well, maybe she's outside on the patio. And I don't know why the hell my mom's sister had a key to our apartment anyways. But she's still looking for me in the apartment, and she looks under the fucking bed. And at first she's like, oh my god, what did he do to you? And I'm trying to tell her nothing, like I made that decision on my own. So she calls my mom right away. My mom comes home, she's screaming at me, and she kicks me out. So I go to my grandma's house, and I told my grandma what happened. And my grandma calls her, and she's like, it's not her fault that you gave her daddy issues. And I'm like, bruh, what the fuck? Child, anyways. So then she goes on Facebook and starts posting about how I'm a whore and a slut and how, like, it isn't her boyfriend's fault at all. So now I...
Story time about how I'm hopelessly in love with my boss and I'm about to be a homewrecker, but help me! Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So I've been working for my boss for 3 months. He's in the tech world and he makes lots of money, and he hired me as a personal assistant. He's got a wife and 3 kids. They've been married for 15 years, and he's 18 years older than I am. One day my friend told me that this guy was looking for a personal assistant, and I applied for the job. I had my first interview, and right away I was super attracted to him, and I could tell that he was attracted to me. Like, you know, when you like someone and, you know, there's just a vibe between you guys. He then called me in for a second interview, and in this interview, we basically spoke about everything he would want me to do and what the job entailed. I mostly had to run his schedule and set up meetings for him with clients and different things like that. So it's not like I was getting him his laundry or running errands for him. A few days later, he calls me and tells me that I got the job. He offered me a lot of money, more than it was advertised at the beginning when I went for the interview. So I took the job. But here's the thing. From the time I did my first interview, I had not stopped thinking about this man. Like, I already had feelings for him before I even started working for him. So I decided to dress really cute for my first day, and he noticed. I mean, I was playing this man like a fiddle. My goal was to get him to fall for me. After the first week, he asked me to go to lunch with him to celebrate the fact that I had been doing a good job. Of course, I said yes. Went to this beautiful restaurant and had wine. We then went back to his office and I went home. Later on, he sends me a text message saying that he's so proud of me for doing such a good job. Fast forward a few weeks, I kept flirting, he kept flirting back. Finally, at the end of the month, we went to another lunch. This is when he opened up to me and told me that he was attracted to me. I told him I was attracted to him too. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how I'm hopelessly in love with my boss and I'm about to be a homewrecker, so I need your guys' help. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. After my first month of working there, he took me out to lunch and decided to tell me that he was attracted to me. So of course I confessed to him that I was attracted to him as well. I mean, duh, it was so obvious. At this point, I had done everything in my power to make him fall in love with me. I wore the cutest outfits, always did my hair and makeup. If I went to Starbucks, I would always get him a drink as well. And I would even bring him home-cooked meals sometimes. So in other words, I went out of my way to make him see that I am totally wifey material. And yes, I was always aware that he was married and had kids, but he didn't look happy with his wife. She never came to the office, and they never spent any time together. And according to him, she had an affair last year, and he's pretty sure that she's back with the guy that she was having an affair with. First, I didn't know whether to believe him or not, but then he showed me screenshots of messages that she had sent to this guy. That's when he asked me if I wanted to go have lunch again. Then he asked me to go to the movies, and we made out the entire time. So I'm sitting there making out with my boss. That's when he tells me that we have to keep this hush-hush, because if the company finds out, he will be in major trouble and so will I. But he's a high earner in the company, so he can't be messing around. This would ruin his life. Ever since the first kiss, he basically treats me like his work girlfriend. And every day for lunch, we go out to a restaurant just to get to know each other. It's the only time we have together. About a week ago, he asked me if I would be willing to marry him if he divorced his wife. I said yes right away, but honestly, I'm not sure if I want him to leave his wife for me. And his kids. I never thought of myself as a homewrecker. Well, because I said yes, he said that we should try to find a way to tell his wife. I mean, I don't even want to meet this woman, and he wants both of us to talk to her. I told him we should wait at least a few months before we do that. That's when he got me a new apartment. That way, when he leaves his wife, he's already got a place to stay. And of course, he wants to live with me right away. It's a luxury apartment, and I love it. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how I'm hopelessly in love with my boss and I'm about to be a homewrecker. So yes, I need your guys' help. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So now that he got me my new luxury apartment, which I'm totally in love with. By the way, I have a sauna in my shower. He wants us to plan out how we're going to tell his wife. Like I said in part 2, I don't know if I want him to leave his wife for me. I mean, I see a future with him, but do I really want him to leave his wife and his kids for me? He even wants to start planning the wedding. He wants to move in together right away, plan the wedding, and get married. He promises me that his kids will love me and that his wife won't have a problem because she's already having an affair with someone else. else. But I feel like that's just him being hopeful, and it's really not going to be that easy. So I opened up to my family and I told them what's going on. My mom told me that as long as he leaves his wife and everything is good with the kids, then we should feel free to be together. But ultimately, she doesn't want me to be a homewrecker. I definitely feel like things are going way too fast. I mean, tomorrow we're going to go taste a bunch of cakes at a really nice bakery. Oh yeah, and he even took me shopping for a wedding ring. He wants to buy me one that's $40,000. It's 3.2 carats. So unfortunately, now that I told my family, a few cousins found out what was happening. And one of my cousins reached out to my ex. She told him what was happening and he called me to ask me not to marry this guy. He says we can work on our relationship. But let me tell you, this ex was totally toxic. He would monitor everything I would do. He never let me have friends, and he didn't even allow me to have Instagram. Oh yeah, and he's kind of broke. I mean, I was the one paying for most of the stuff in the relationship, so I don't even know if I want to open that can of worms again. But part of me thinks he's right. Like, I shouldn't be rushing into this. But on the other hand, I found myself a wonderful man. He's so loving, caring, so generous, and he's actually super fun to be with too. I've never felt more secure in a relationship before, and I know that most women would love to be with him too. What do you guys think I should do? Embarrassing story time about how I was catfished for 3 years. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I'm a super shy person. I have such a hard time talking to guys. So one day my friend suggested I do online dating. So I went home and I signed up to a bunch of dating apps. This is when I started meeting a bunch of guys online. And it was much easier to speak to them through there than in person. So one day I get a message from this really cute guy. He asked me for my Instagram and we started messaging each other through there. His profile was full of pictures of him traveling with his dog and his family. He had a Range Rover and even said he was a doctor. Like, literally my dream man. After a few weeks, I was completely head over heels in love. And he told me he felt the same way. But we had never even had a phone conversation. That's when I asked him if we could talk on the phone. He told me he was in surgeries all day, so he would have to reschedule. I believed it. He then ghosted me for a full week. When he came back, he apologized and said he's been really busy. So I decided to call him. And you won't believe what happened next. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how I got catfished for 3 years. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So like I said in part 1, he ghosted me for a full week. When he came back, he said he was just busy. So I called him, and a man with a strange accent answered on the other side. He told me that my boyfriend left his phone in the bathroom and that he happened to find it. And I believed it. A few hours later, I get a message from my online boyfriend saying that he's sorry he missed my call. He said he was really busy for the rest of the week, so he wouldn't be able to talk on the phone. I was so in love that I just believed everything he said, which I know is so stupid. After that, we just messaged each other through WhatsApp for months. Then I asked him to send me some pictures, and he basically sent me screenshots of his Instagram pictures. So I asked him to send me a selfie. Obviously, I wasn't suspecting anything, but I just wanted to see his face. So he sent me a really bad quality picture, and I couldn't really even make out the face. That's when he said the camera on his phone wasn't working, which is why he sent me screenshots of Instagram. Again, I believed it. A few days later, he asked me for money, and when I asked him why, he said he was short on funds. So I sent him $3,000. Then he sent a really angry message saying I should have sent more. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how I got catfished for 3 years. Claim this is not my story time. It's sent to me on Instagram. So I sent him $3,000. A few hours later, I get an angry message from him saying that I should have sent more money. He even called me the B word. I was super heartbroken because I couldn't believe he was talking to me like that. So like an idiot, I apologized and sent $2,000 more. So in total, I'd given him $5,000. I asked him again what he needed the money for, and he said that his money was tied up in investments. A few days later, he apologized and told me the money came through. Before I knew it, almost 3 years had passed. He kept using COVID as an excuse not to be able to travel to see me. And yes, he did ask me for more money, so in total I had sent him about $20,000. A month ago, I told him that for my birthday, I wanted to go see him. That's when he sent me a message saying that I was too much and he couldn't handle the relationship anymore. I called him again and the same weird voice answered. That's when he told me that he had been lying to me this whole time, and he was actually a 70-year-old French man. He told me to leave him alone and hung up. I'm totally heartbroken, and I have no way of getting that money back. What should I do? Story time about how my crazy friend told me that she's attracted to me and I eventually had to block her. And yeah, she's a girl. And yes, this is my own story time. Oh yeah, and by the way, my makeup collab with Au Natural dropped today, so please click the link in my bio. I am so proud of it, and it is super affordable makeup. So back in 2016, I was living in LA by myself. I was pretty much on set every single week and I auditioned almost every day. So I was meeting tons of people and actors at that time. And I was making lots of friends. During one of these auditions, I met this girl, let's call her Jess. Jess was super cute and funny and she made me laugh a lot. After the audition, she asked me if I wanted to share an Uber with her, which I thought was really sweet. But when we got into the Uber, she was asking me so many questions. Like, this girl wanted to know everything about me. Finally, we exchanged phone numbers, and when I got home, she sent me a text. She asked me to go out with her and her friends. I had so much work the next day, I told her no. That's when she calls me really angry, telling me that I need to live my life. You'll never guess what she said. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how my friend told me she was attracted to me and I eventually had to block her. If you haven't heard, I dropped my first makeup collab today with Au Natural. Please click the link in my bio to shop. It's super affordable makeup and I'm so proud of it. So she calls me on the phone after I told her I didn't want to go out, and she starts yelling at me. She says that I needed to live my life. Then she said, "Give me your address, I'm coming over right now to pick you up." That's when I was honest with her and I told her that she's putting a lot of pressure on me and that I barely even know her. Then she kind of backed off because she heard my tone of voice, and she told me that she was a very intuitive person, that she could tell that I was holding something back. I told her we could hang out that weekend and she said fine. Then she proceeded to text me every single day. Really thought we were building a friendship, so we talked about a lot of stuff. And I was finally happy to have a real girlfriend. At least I thought. Finally, the weekend comes around, but I get my period. My periods are pretty bad, so I told her that I wouldn't be able to go out. Again, she calls me super angry. She said I needed to man up and basically take drugs, like the green stuff. I sort of laughed on the phone, and this made her even more angry. That's when she hung up. But then she calls me right back. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how my crazy friend told me she was attracted to me and eventually I had to block her. By the way, the blue pigment is from my collab with Au Natural, so please go click the link in bio to shop. Super affordable. So after she hung up on me, she calls me right back. That's when I told her that she was being really strange and I just didn't like it. She apologized and begged me to come out. Finally, I said yes because she was just being so annoying. So I go out with her and her friends for a few hours. Then I literally had to beg her to let me go home. Throughout the night, she kept holding my hand and kissing it. Another 2 weeks passed by and we just kept texting, but I definitely knew that I was not going to go out with her again. But of course, she invites me out again. That's when I told her that I didn't really think our friendship would work out. 30 minutes later, she tells me to look out my window. Yep, she showed up to my apartment. Then she told me that I was confused, as in I didn't know if I liked men or women. I told her I definitely like guys. She told me she just wanted to take me out on one date. I asked her how she found out where I lived, and she said she followed me from the Uber that first time. I blocked her and ran inside, haven't spoken to her.
Storytime, my dad got my half-brother's girlfriend pregnant. A little background information. This all happened a few years ago. Anyways, my brother was fresh out of high school and he had been dating this girl named Serena for 2 years. And my dad, for some reason, hated her. At least that's what we thought. Well, my brother didn't have a license at the time, so every time that she came over, she needed somebody to drop her off at home. So my dad would always offer to drop her off at home, even though he literally hated her. And he could have just ordered her an Uber, which is what he did with all of my friends. Well, the one night her parents called and they were like, "Hey, is Serena still there? She hasn't came home yet." And my dad said that he was dropping her off. So I called my dad and he said that they ran out of gas on the side of the road. So that was just one incident. Well, the next morning my mom goes to get in the car for work and she finds a thong in the car. So she brings it in the house and she asks me, "Hey, is this yours?" Meanwhile, I had never seen them before. So then she goes and asks my half-brother and my dad's whose they are, for part 2. Part 2 about how my dad got my half-brother's girlfriend pregnant. So like I said, my mom found that thong in the car. She came and asked me if it was mine. I said no. So then she asked my dad and my brother whose they were. So she asked my dad first. He said, "I don't know whose they are." He said they probably just fell out of Serena's bag. And then she asked my brother. And my brother said, "Oh, those are Serena's." So after that, my brother came in my room. And he was like, "Do you think it's weird that the same underwear that Serena was wearing before she left ended up in the car?" So I guess she had the underwear on literally before she fucking left the house. Dumb bitch alert. Anyway, so a few weeks later, Serena breaks up with my brother. Well, around the same time, my dad started staying after work really late, every day of the week. Well, long story short, my mom went through his phone because she felt like something was going on, and she reads a conversation between my dad and Serena. "Oh, I'm so sad that you couldn't come to the ultrasound." So then my mom and him divorced, and he's currently raising his child with Serena. Storytime, my boyfriend found out that his best friend got me pregnant. It was my junior year in high school, and my boyfriend and I had been dating for 4 months. Well, the one night him, his friend, and I were all supposed to go to this party. My boyfriend ended up getting called into work that night, so his friend and I went. Which my boyfriend was fine with because he wanted his best friend to keep an eye on me, but he also trusted us. Anyway, so his friend and I ended up going to the party, and then but the next morning I woke up, I didn't remember that at all. So fast forward, I find out that I'm pregnant. Well, me forgetting that I totally cheated on my boyfriend, I thought that it was his. Well, a week later, I get a text from his friend. And he's like, "Oh my god, what are we gonna do?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, what are we gonna do?" So then he filled me in on the whole situation that I didn't remember. But I was like, there's really no chance of this because my boyfriend and I fucked a million times and me and you fucked once. The real tea is that my boyfriend was black and his friend was white. Well, me being the bitch that I am, I was like, well, let's just wait it out. I bet it's not his, for part 2. Part 2 about how my boyfriend found out that his best friend got me pregnant. So like I said, my boyfriend was black, his best friend was white, and because I doubted that it was his best friend's kid, I decided to wait it out. Say it with me, bad idea. So fast forward, I'm in the delivery room and I decide not to have my boyfriend in there. Well, let's just say good thing that he did. Bitch, whenever this thing popped out, it was white as fucking paper. So I was like to the doctor, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a panic attack. Please get the baby out of the room. I don't want anybody around the baby right now." So when my boyfriend came back in the room, I was like, "Oh, we can't see the baby. He's having some issues." He's over here freaking out. I'm having a fucking panic attack about what I'm gonna do. And they brought my kid back and I was like, "That's not my kid." And this girl looked so confused. She was like, Oh, okay. And my boyfriend and I are laughing. We're like, oh, haha, that's funny. Then she comes back into the room and she's like, ma'am, this is your kid. So my boyfriend started screaming, and he broke up with me after that. Like, how rude to just leave me with a kid by myself. No, I'm just joking. I know that was pretty fucked.
I never really saw you coming until you turned me around. I used to think I was nothing, but look at this love we found. So give me your hand like you took mine. No, I don't ever wanna see you cry. Oh yeah, no more tears. Oh yeah, no more tears. Take that chance, we'll be fine. No, I don't ever wanna see you.
I was given up for adoption right after I was born. Unfortunately, my adoption didn't work out and I grew up in foster care until I turned 18. I'm now 19 and in college. In February, I got a Facebook message from a man claiming to be my father. We messaged back and forth, and while I kept a lot of my childhood details private, we did make plans to meet him and my mother. They weren't married to each other, by the way. When I got to the restaurant, I was very shocked and honestly upset to find my father and mother had brought their spouses, as well as their children, to surprise me. My father's mother, so my grandmother, was also there. I was already feeling very emotional about the whole thing, and seeing everyone there didn't help. So I sat through an hour of listening to them sharing all about their lives while I fake smiled through everything. Honestly, I felt very jealous that they had kids they really loved and how they all had really happy lives after ditching me. Then they started asking about me and my parents, and how my Facebook gave away very little about my life. I basically lost it and started crying like a little witch, LOL, and told them how nasty my adoptive parents were and how horrible foster life was. I was pretty snarky and sarcastic when I said that I'm glad their lives worked out for them because mine sure didn't. I couldn't stop crying, and my father had to drop me back home. He was very apologetic. I feel very bad about it. I made my mother and father cry at the restaurant. They were really nice people. I got a few messages from my mother and father separately where they've been apologizing and if they could make it up to me. My mother in particular seems really upset by everything, and I hate that I may have messed up her happy life. Her last message basically said that she's been unable to sleep and wants to see me again. I've been ignoring their messages and just been focusing on school instead. Am I the idiot? Maybe I should have been more honest before the meetup. No idiots here. You have a right to your life, and they have probably spent the last 19 years clinging to the idea that you had a better life than they could give you. Being hit by the reality that their happiness now is built on the opportunities they had by condemning you to misery has probably hurt them quite a bit, but that's not your fault. Yeah, but they're pretty close to being the idiot for bringing everyone with them to what should have been a personal meeting. You are not the idiot. To begin with, they shouldn't have brought their families. Then they went on to say how great their lives were. To be honest, just reading it feels like a slap in the face. That's not to say that you should stay away from them though, but that's completely your choice. If they don't like it, all I can say is it's their fault for overwhelming you at the meetup. When I, male 38, was a kid, my father remarried after my mom died. My new stepmother hated my guts and made her life a mission to turn my life into a nightmare, and my dear old father simply turned a blind eye to her actions. When I was a bit older, she got pregnant and managed to convince my father to kick me out of the house, probably because she wanted her son to be the only one receiving attention from Dad. So, despite all my protests, I was sent to live with my uncle on the other side of the state. I was so furious, hurt and sad that I disowned my father and cut ties with him. For me, he was dead, and I refused to even hear anything about him or let him know anything about me. My uncle, who is gay and child-free, became my dad, and he is a real dad. He helped me when I was down, celebrated with me my accomplishments, and thanks to him, I was able to make something out of myself. Well, 2 years ago, my grandpa passed away. My uncle couldn't go to the funeral due to being in hospital after a car accident, so he asked if I could go in his place. And since I had some vacation days from my job, I said yes. At the funeral, I sat at the back and I saw him for the first time in 20 years. And boy, he looked like a living dead and nobody was sitting next to him. After the funeral, we had a small gathering at one of my aunt's houses, where I was informed about what happened over the last 22 years. Turned out stepmom isolated my father from the rest of the family, and when my half-brother was nearly adult, the witch drained their bank accounts, revealed that her son wasn't my father's son, and ran away with the bastard and the bastard's father. Since then, father had been into deep depression and debt. I couldn't care less and was just staying out of his view and enjoying the food my aunt had cooked. At some moment, Father came to notice my presence and rushed to hug me. I would be lying if I say I didn't see his eyes shining when he saw me. I didn't hug back. After some time, he invited me to sit on the couch and talk. The talk was basically 45 minutes of the most sincere apology I ever heard, and he asked me if we could try to mend our relationship. I said no. The fact he turned a blind eye for the things his ex-wife did to me, and that he didn't even protest against sending me to the other side of the state, far away from all my friends, was too much for me to forgive and forget. Yeah, I am that kind of person. When I got back home, my uncle told me about my father's meltdown. He understands, but was disappointed, and so were my aunts. So, Reddit, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Super not. If anyone tries to play the "but he's your family" card, turn it on them and ask, if we're family, why did he insert everything he did? Take a breath. You're not the idiot here. It's simple. He turned his back on you, so it shouldn't be a surprise when OP turned his back on him. The father was at his low point, but OP was at a lower point because he lost his mother and was cast aside by his father. This is the direct consequence of the father's abandonment. People, what's your biggest family drama right now? 7 years ago, my sister sued me for a phone bill. She convinced me it would be a great idea to share a phone plan. Well, she added me on and then, without asking me, added my then boyfriend on the plan to save money. He ended up never paying his portion of the bill, and every month my bill magically went up by $10 or more, and I'd ask why and never got an answer. This went on for about 6 months, when finally in June I downgraded the phone to a flip phone line and told her I would no longer share her plan. The cost was cheaper than completely deactivating the line. I probably should have just deactivated it anyways. I got my new phone and line and changed my number. In August of that year, she sued me for leaving the plan. She sued me originally for $1,000 for a phone that cost $100 and the deactivation fee in full, so $300 plus. I told my mother she wouldn't win in court because I had text proof of me asking for explanations, etc. Well, she told my sister, and while I was gone they deleted all of my proof on my old phone. I lost the case, obviously, because I couldn't prove anything. I haven't really spoken to her since, and she wants to make contact. She's never apologized and keeps telling family she doesn't know why we don't talk. I just can't handle it. The reason I think I'm the idiot is because I probably should have just deactivated the line instead of changing the line type. I had been paying the $10 but stopped because she sued me, and now it's been 7 years and she wants to talk this week. Regardless of the vote here, I don't think I'm willing or ready to forgive anything, and she's definitely ruined our relationship. I guess I just want to see if I really am in the wrong here. Maybe I can reevaluate my stance on it. Nope, not wrong, not the idiot. You don't steal money from someone using the court system, tamper with evidence and get to be all, gee, I don't understand why they're upset. Your sister and your mother did something ungodly terrible, and it would be reasonable to have no contact with either of them. What on earth? Wow, great mother you have. Clear favoritism here. I would cut contact with her too if that would have happened to me, or demand the money from her because she made you lose your case. You are not the idiot. Well, thankfully Mum was cut off again this year. Previously, we made it to 5 years without speaking, but unforeseen circumstance happened and I got into contact again and deeply regret it. Sister is also coming over tomorrow to borrow our carpet cleaner and wants to talk, so I'm extremely worried. You are not wrong. They made sure you would lose and cheated the system and screwed you over instead of paying for her own mistakes of adding your old boyfriend. And don't lend her anything. At least charge her a normal rental fee for the cleaner. Cutting her off means she does not get to borrow things from you. She obviously feels like you were in the wrong and still does. So charge her or tell her to buy her own cleaner. You are continuing to let her walk all over you. I came downstairs without a bra and said hi to my parents, then was going to make myself a snack and watch TV. My mom asked if I had a bra on. We have a rule that I have to either wear a bra or put on a sweatshirt at all times if my dad is around. I said no, sorry, I just showered and forgot. And I kind of pulled on my PJ shirt forward a bit so my nips weren't against the shirt, and was going to go to make my food and then go back to my room to watch my show, and my dad goes, I can 100% see your nipples. And I got kind of mad because I would have already been gone and back in my room if they had just left it alone, and I went, if you weren't staring at my breasts, we shouldn't have a problem. Why are you looking at my nipples? So then he and my mom got mad at me for saying that my dad was being a creep and said that I know the rules, I don't have to agree with them, but I do have to follow them. My logic is more that I forgot, was just going to get some food and go back upstairs super fast. My parents were on our screened-in porch and not even near the kitchen, so if I didn't say hi to them, they wouldn't have even seen me. Am I the idiot here? Should add that I was wearing an oversized t-shirt, which is what I sleep in. It's not low cut or anything like that. My nips just apparently show through a bit without a bra on. Update. I talked to my dad and said that it makes me really uncomfortable knowing that he is looking at my breasts, and he said that I'm showing them to him, and it's super obvious when I don't wear a bra, and if I don't want him to see my breasts, he never has to look at me again, because he just looks at the totality of me. He also said that if I refuse to wear a bra around him, then I need to get comfortable with him looking at my breasts, because that's the natural consequence of my choices. It's super weird that you always have to wear a bra in front of your dad. Like what? Is he going to find his child attractive or something? Plus, what a way to reinforce that it's a woman's responsibility for men's feelings and actions. Which, just to be clear, it's not. How old are you? Why is your father looking at your nips? Why do you have to have a bra on? You're a girl, what did they expect you to do? Grow potatoes? You're not the idiot, your parents are. I'm nearly adult. They say I have to wear a bra when I'm in public areas of the house because it's inappropriate, and I said, why, it's our private house and we all have breasts. I have 2 sisters. And my dad was like, well, it makes me uncomfortable to have your nips out, so in front of me you have to do it. And that was our compromising. Perhaps a better compromise would be if your father wore a bra to cover his eyes when you and your sisters are around without bras on. Additionally, that's only 1 bra that needs to be worn instead of 3. I, 19 female, have a little over 3 feet of hair. It's naturally on the thin side, but I've been taking good care of it so there's no breakage or heat damage. People ask about it occasionally, but usually they're just curious, how and why I've grown it so long. To answer, in case anyone is curious, I don't rinse out my conditioner all the way, and I manually detangle every knot instead of ripping through them with a brush, and I just like having long hair. It's not religion-related or anything. I do have one person in my life, though, who I'll call Rachel, 20 female. She has a much younger sister, Eva, who has alopecia and is very insecure about being bald. Their family doesn't have much money and can't afford a wig that Eva can wear, since she also has allergies to one of the main ingredients in synthetic wigs. Rachel told me about a week ago that she contacted a wig-making place who said they could provide a big discount if the family could provide the hair themselves. She asked me to donate my hair, and I said no. She wasn't initially upset and didn't press me at first. I don't think she expected me to say yes right away, but she has steadily become more persistent over the past few days. She keeps calling me selfish, saying I wouldn't even miss it and that I don't need it, since I'm not growing my hair for religious reasons. I absolutely would miss it, since they would need about 16 inches for a full wig because my hair is so thin. I also have psoriasis, so I'm a little irrationally attached to my long pretty hair because my scalp is so gross. Rachel asked again tonight, so I told her my reasons. She snapped. She told me how much I love my hair should show me just how insecure Eva is without any hair at all, and that it would make it a really meaningful gift. I also found out tonight that she already told Eva I would be giving her my hair, so she said I'd be breaking Eva's heart if I went back on it now, even though, again, I never said yes. Rachel just left furiously, and now I'm wondering if I'm wrong here. I'm pretty confident that what she did is a huge, terrible move, so I'm not asking about that, but I can't really argue with her assertion that I don't need it. Is it selfish of me not to donate my hair when her sister doesn't have any? You're not wrong. She can grow her own hair out for her sister, and it's incredibly cheeky for her to be telling you she already told her sister yes. She is breaking her sister's heart, not you. Not the idiot. It's your hair. It's literally part of your body and attached to you. You are not responsible for Rachel's lies or for Rachel's sister. If Rachel asks again, be very clear, in writing, that harassing someone to donate part of their body is illegal. that it needs to stop immediately or legal action will be taken. I'd also never sleep in the same house as Rachel, in case she decides to steal from you. Update. I set up a time to call her parents and just talk to them, and wow, Rachel was lying to me about a bunch of things. Luckily, she didn't actually tell Eva that I'd promised to donate my hair. She also failed to tell me that the family had contacted several other people in a couple of charity groups. Apparently, because she has a form of alopecia where her hair grows back and then falls out again, she's not eligible for a lot of the typical charity groups, but there are still some that might help. They've come into contact with plenty of people who are willing to donate hair, so mine isn't an issue anymore. I also got to talk to Eva, who tried to apologize for her sister after her parents asked about all of this. And I reassured her that Rachel just loves her and is trying to take care of her. We chatted for a while and she told me about how she's learning to crochet sweaters and wants to be a herpetologist. I also told her that although it might feel weird to be bald, she can do cool things that I can't do with my hair on my head, like henna. A couple of people said that Rachel probably just behaved the way she did out of concern for Eva. I agree. She's had some difficulty connecting with her in the past because of their age gap. And I think she really wanted to be the one to provide a solution to show Eva how much she cares. Rachel doesn't usually behave like this, and I know she's under a lot of stress because she has a really heavy course load, but also had to get a job last month to help support her family. So looking back on it, I completely understand her lashing out. I texted her asking to talk later and explained I'd talk to her family about everything and I hope she responds. In quotes, because hoodie is actually mine. I bought it for myself back in 2017 and had it customized with our surname on the front and a few other things. My brother liked it and would occasionally borrow it, until one time he borrowed it for a trip and decided not to return it. It wasn't my only hoodie and he kept good care of things, so I wasn't overly upset by it. Every time he posted a picture wearing it, I'd comment on how I had one just like that and we'd discuss him bringing it back next time. It became a joke between us, but I still regarded it as mine and was waiting for the perfect time to steal it back when I visited him, since him bringing it back himself was clearly not going to happen. Since we live quite some distance away from each other, this was a bit hard and 2 years passed with him still having it. Early this year he passed away and yeah, we didn't expect it. The last thing on my mind was my hoodie and the fact that it wasn't with his things. Now, I was at his girlfriend's apartment to fetch a pup she was giving to my mum, and while there I noticed the hoodie peeking from under this blanket in the living room. I don't know, I guess I got excited, grabbed it and expressed that excitement which caught her attention. She asked what I was doing and I told her that this was my hoodie and was explaining the story to her when she interrupted me midway and was like, "No, it's actually not yours. It was my brother's," in a dismissive tone. I said, "Yeah, it is mine," and told her that my brother took it from me and never gave it back. She just rolled her eyes, said okay, then tried to grab it from me. I asked what she was doing and she said taking it because it was mine, but now it was my brother's, so I can't just come in and steal it without asking because no one gave me that power. Her attitude really ticked me off, so I just said tough and that it was mine, so I'll be taking it, then left. Apparently, she posted a picture of her wearing the hoodie with a caption saying, "Some people don't let you grieve," or something like that, followed by some other long thing. Honestly, I would have considered letting her keep it if her attitude wasn't awful, but since it was, and it's my hoodie, there's no discussion to be had about it. My mum says that she thinks I might have been an idiot for how I acted in response to her possible obvious pain and grief. I don't, because I could have been uncivil, but I chose to be civil and leave before it got there. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Grieving is not an excuse to be awful. You just lost your brother, so she doesn't get a monopoly on grief. Obviously, the kind thing would be to let her have something that reminds her of your brother, but she should have told you that instead of acting like an idiot. It sounds like the hoodie means a lot to you, and I think you were completely justified keeping it after the way she reacted. Also, legally speaking, she is a girlfriend, not even a fiancée, thus has no legal right to the property. The brother has a better legal leg to stand on property of his brother's estate. You both are idiots. You're both childish. You could have asked for the hoodie and she didn't need to post in anger about this fight. 2 years of him having it, it's more his than yours at this point. From the way you describe her and all this, it sounds like you just don't like her, period. And this hoodie fight is just a symptom of that. This really irks me from having dealt with people who seemingly procrastinate on returning items until enough time has gone by, then switch it up to claiming it was so long ago.